leads exploded, our brand exploded, trust exploded, and of course, sales exploded as well.
People are, I agree, fearful when it comes to hiring attorneys. And the reason for that fear is, number one, it's not even the fees. It's because we inherently understand that we do not know how to choose the right attorney.
And so you have this capability to win them and to win their trust before you sit down in your office with them, before you shake their hand.
So once they started adding all of those pages, what he noticed, or what his web developer told him, is that he started getting a lot more traffic to the website. And then he started noticing that the phone started ringing a lot more often. Welcome to Grow Law Firm Podcast. I have an amazing guest here with me today. He doesn't know me or didn't know me until a few minutes ago, but I feel like I've known Marcus Sheridan for years. Ever since I read his brilliant book, They Ask You Answer, for the first time, I think it was around 2016 or 17, just when it came out. And it is my top 3 most quoted business book. Not only did I read it numerous times, I gifted that book numerous times. I do not know how many times I gifted that book. I recommended it more than I gifted it. It is a brilliant book, and it answers some of the key questions that so many law firm owners and lawyers have had, and they were never able to truly answer it. And here you're going to get some of those questions answered. Marcus, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Sasha, it's my pleasure to be here. I got a feeling that if you're listening to this right now, you're going to get some takeaways. You're going to get some value. That's the goal.
100%. Marcus, I feel like I know your story really well because I read your book more than once. If you don't mind sharing it, because it is so illustrious, it so illustrates the point that you have illustrated in the book so well. So if you don't mind, just start with your story.
Yeah, so I started. I didn't grow up wanting to be a pool guy. I kind of fell into it. I had just gotten out of college. It was around 2001. My 2 buddies had just started a swimming pool company. And they asked me if I wanted to work there. And I said, sure, until I find out what I want to do with my life. And after about 4, 5, 6 months of being there, they said, do you want to be a partner? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds like a plan. So I became a partner to this company. It's called River Pools in Virginia. And, we we struggled along and slowly grew the business, but then came the crash of 2008. I thought we were going to lose the business. I thought we were going to have to file bankruptcy. And that was the time that I started to really research online all these fancy phrases that today we take for granted, like inbound marketing or content marketing or social media or blogging. And, really, Sasha, what I heard in my pool guy mind as I was researching this stuff is, Marcus, if you just obsess over your customers' questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns, and you're willing to address those on your website through text, through video, you might save your business. So I said, well, this is my last shot. I got nothing to lose. And so I brainstormed every single question I had ever received from someone about a fiberglass swimming pool, because that's what we sold, mainly fiberglass swimming pools. And one by one, over the next 2 years, I would address these through text, through video on our website, with articles, with videos, etc. And to make a long story short, it became the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. And leads exploded, our brand exploded, trust exploded, and of course, sales exploded as well. And we became the fastest growing swimming pool company in the U.S. And then we started manufacturing fiberglass swimming pools. And so it just took off. And, during that time period, I started to write about what I had done with my pool company. And people started to reach out to me and say, Marcus, could you teach my company how to do this? And so I started a little agency that today is called Impact. And now we've helped probably thousands of companies implement this framework, which of course would go on to call They Ask You Answer. And I wrote the book They Ask You Answer after all of this in 2017. First version came out. 2020, the second version came out. I actually have a third version that's going to come out probably later on this year. But it's been an amazing ride because well over 100,000 companies have read the book. Thousands have applied its teachings. If you want to become the most trusted brand in your space, it is a framework that works pretty much every single time. If you don't shortchange the steps. A lot of people like to, they like to skip steps. But if you don't shortchange it, if you do it the right way, as I talk about in the book, you'll become that most trusted voice, right? And that's what I think we're all after. And I think in any business, certainly when it comes to law, I mean, trust is paramount to to an attorney's success.
Very well said. And I find that today, unlike in 2008, when you were facing this existential crisis of your business, it is magnitudes easier to provide answers than it was 16 years ago. We're recording this in 2024. Yet, so many law firm owners, so many lawyers are incredibly reluctant at doing exactly that.
Yeah, it's actually one of the worst industries in terms of really leaning into what your customer wants. It's pretty sad, actually, because if you think about it, if you say, so what exactly is they ask you answer? It's the obsession with the questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns of your potential customer or client in this case, and the willingness to address those online through your website, through social, etc. And what you see with so many attorneys is like they act like there's this like secret sauce that they have, and nobody else has it. And what's odd though is the studies show when it comes to when it comes to hiring an attorney, and any attorney worth their salt has heard this stat before, that the first attorney that has an actual conversation with the prospect, with the potential client, that has an actual conversation, becomes the attorney roughly 70% of the time. So if you are the one that has the first conversation, you're golden. But if you are second or third or fourth or never reached out to, well, then you have a problem. And so you have this capability to win them and to win their trust before you sit down in your office with them, before you shake their hand. Here's what we know to be true, that the average buyer today in the world of business, when somebody's making a decision, the average customer, the average buyer, goes through 80% of the buyer's journey before they'll reach out to the actual company. And so an attorney hearing that might say, I don't think it's like that in my case because, somebody has, some type of accident, some type of issue, it comes up, and they just quickly reach out to an attorney. Well, that might happen on occasion. Certainly it does, a certain percentage. But there's a lot of others where you have a problem, you have a legal issue, and you vet significantly multiple companies online, multiple attorneys, multiple firms online before you will reach out to any firm whatsoever. And the one that you're reaching out to is the one that made you feel something different than everyone else while you were vetting. And that was the one that was willing to talk about, was willing to show, was willing to be more human than any of those other firms that you just went through. And the other side to this is, let's be honest, if we look at the legal space, the majority of websites, they look the same. They feel the same. I swear sometimes I think the exact same web designer has built every single website for every single attorney in the world. It's just crazy how similar they are. Now, somebody listening to this right now is already getting offended. And if you're getting offended by this, it's like, okay, let's get past that and accept reality for what it is. I have done so much at this. I mean, I've worked with attorneys. I understand the deal. I've hired attorneys, right? And I've represented them myself in terms of the marketing side of things. I know how this game is played. And I know many of them are still living in that world like it's 1995, the internet doesn't exist, that everything happens after the first physical handshake, right? And it's just like, come on, man. Or they're spending $4 billion a month on pay-per-click, Google AdWords, whatever you want to call it, bidding on phrases like mesothelioma because, hey, sure, why not spend $100 per click, which, by the way, at one point, mesothelioma was the most expensive keyword on Google AdWords in the world. The most expensive in the world. And so you got all these law firms that are spending that much money Now, some are listening to this and saying, we don't do any AdWords, we don't, or Google Ads, we don't do any paid. Well, fine, it doesn't matter. You still need to attract business, and this is B2B or B2C. So whether you represent companies, whether you represent just individual, clients, it doesn't change. They're vetting you to death, and they want to be comfortable, and they want their questions and fears addressed before they will reach out. And the ones willing to do that more than anybody else, they're going to achieve that trust that allows the person to say, I'm going to fill out this form, I'm going to make that phone call, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I've heard this story at an Inbound event in 2014. I believe you spoke at Inbound, but not that year. I think it was a few years after that.
I have spoken every single year at Inbound since its existence.
Oh, really? Okay, so I
Yep.
must have missed you in
That's okay.
2014. But in 2014, I was sitting at Inbound. For those who do not know, Inbound is the largest content marketing slash SEO slash inbound marketing
Yeah.
conference there is in the world. And next to me was sitting a gentleman named Bob. And Bob and I started talking. Bob was a little bit older. He was probably in his late 50s at the time. And he told me that he's here because he's looking for the next big idea. And I asked him, what was the last big idea? And he said, well, I own 4 sleep clinics in the state of Alaska. And a few years ago, one of my phone reps, he had 4 at the time, approached me and said, Bob, people call us every day asking the same stupid questions.
Yep.
Why don't we create an FAQ section on the website? And whenever they call, we'll just tell them to go to the FAQ section. So Bob thought to himself, it's a really stupid idea to send a caller to an FAQ section. But if they're looking for answers to these questions via phone, chances are there are probably more people who are looking for those answers online. So he comes up with this idea and he's like, listen, guys, for the next 2 weeks, all 4 of you, when you answer a call, have a legal notepad next to the phone. And every time you hear a question, you just write it down. So they do this for 2 weeks and they realize that they still get some unique questions. So they end up adding another week to it. In a span of 3 weeks, they uncover that there are 113 unique questions that they
Mm-hmm.
get asked on the phone. Beyond that, they feel like there's nothing new that's coming up. So he tells his reps, he's like, listen, guys, we're not going to create a 113 section FAQ section on the website. Nobody's going to find anything there. So what we're going to do is for every question asked, we're going to write out an answer. And we're just going to ask our web developer to add a page with a question at the top and answer below. And you guys are
Yep.
going to be the ones who are going to write those answers. And they're like, no, we're not writing this. No way. And he's like, just write it how you would say it. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about anything. Just write out the answer. And he gives them something like 3 or 4 months to write it out. And for every page of content that they create, he tells web developer to add it to the website. So once they started adding all of those pages, what he noticed or what his web developer told him is that he started getting a lot more traffic to the website.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started noticing that the phone started ringing a lot more often. And then he started seeing a big time increase on his profit and loss statement. The top line
Yep.
kept growing.
Yep.
And after a few years, I think in 2012, he got a call from one of the major competitors from mainland. And they're like, Bob, we want to buy you out. And he's like, you want my clinics in Alaska? They're small. They're like, not interested in that. We want to buy your website.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob sold the website for $17 million because just like River Pools, I think that was the name of your pool
Yeah.
company,
Yeah.
became the source of all answers to all questions related to fiberglass pools. Bob's website became the source of all answers to all questions that had to do with sleep disorders. Like you can't
That's
sleep at night. You're like, I'm gonna go and see like why I'm not sleeping at night. 17 million bucks. He didn't know. There was no book. He just kind of walked into it, just like you did, executed on it without knowing the power of that. $17 million.
mm. And a lot of people that are listening to this, unfortunately, will say, but that's a sleep clinic. That's not a law firm.
That's a pool company. It's not gonna work for me.
Yeah, it's a pool company. And what a tragedy that is, because the psychology of choosing someone to work with whenever there's risk involved. money, whatever you want to call it, is the same.
Yeah.
You don't want to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so that's the choice that we have, right? And it's fascinating to me because if you think about it, the internet was designed for attorneys because what can most attorneys do? Most can communicate pretty clearly. Most can get on video. They can articulate thoughts in a way that could be a jury, could be an audience, whomever could understand. So the internet's designed for these folks. It was designed for me. Like fundamentally at my core, what am I? I am a teacher. I can boil ideas down into a very simple idea so that people can understand it. Instead of using a phrase like content marketing, I say a phrase like they ask, you answer. And then all of a sudden it makes sense to people, right? That's what the great attorneys do is they are able to boil it down so clearly it's like obvious to their audience. And the same thing here is, I mean, anybody today has a chance legitimately to become a media company. And if I am a lawyer today and I'm trying to build my brand, I'm trying to build my firm, what I'm saying is I need to become a media company. It doesn't mean that, the traditional sense that we've heard, but what it means is that I am prolifically giving advice. I'm doing it online. I'm doing it through video. I'm doing it through multiple channels. If you're a serious law firm and you don't have a full-time videographer in 2024, shame on you. It's like you are living in the Stone Ages. If I was a single attorney working on my own, I would have my first two hires, a virtual assistant and a videographer. Those are the first two hires that I would have. And it's crazy to me that so many folks won't won't think like that. Blow up your brand by answering these questions that are specific to your legal niche online. Tell us stories. We want to hear the stories. You don't have to use client names, of course not. But there's a lot of stories that you could be telling. Very few will do that. And they'll still do traditional ways of advertising, which, they're only as good as the amount you want to spend per month. I mean, that to me is ridiculous. I, created the most traffic swimming pool website in the world, and it's still the gift that keeps on giving. Just it's the snowball rolling down the hill, just getting bigger and bigger. That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing. Like the idea of having to spend thousands and thousands a month just to pay for some words or some ads or whatever to drive business when I could do it organically and I could do it essentially for free. I can't even start to understand.
I'm imagining some minds exploding when they're listening to you and their number one objection. But all the content that could have been created already created. But if I share everything that I know, why would they hire me? But I'm a lawyer. I cannot share all this information.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of those, and we can address just a few of those. First off, I once I before I became a professional speaker, that's what I do. I mean, I travel the world. I speak. I work with companies, work with brands, help them become the most trusted voice online. And before I started doing that, I was speaking to the swimming pool industry. That's where I got my start, of course. And I once tracked that I had taught over 1,000 swimming pool companies how to do what I did at my company, River Pools. I mean, I gave them the recipe, the whole cookbook. I just gave it to them. Said, here's how I did it. Do you know how many of those over 1,000 companies did it even half as well as I did it at River Pools? Like maybe one. That's because you can take a horse to water, you can't make it drink. We've heard that phrase a million times. And so you can be rest assured that all your competitors are not doing this. But let's just be hypothetical. Let's make an untrue statement. Let's say everybody's done They Ask You Answer in the legal space and they've done it exceptionally well, which is total BS, but we'll roll with that one. Okay, So let's say uh, a potential client um, is given you as a referral from one of their friends. Now, before they call you, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go to your website. And when they go to your website, what's going to happen? Are they going to be fed? Are their fears, issues, worries, concerns going to be addressed? Are you going to stand out? Because they might have gotten 3 or 4 referrals from other friends. Or are you going to appear like everybody stinking else? I mean, that's the choice that you can make. Are they going to get to know you? Are they going to get to hear your voice when they come on your channel? Or are you just going to sit there on your about page with your arms folded across your chest and try to look like, you're some stonewalled, legal expert? I hope not. I hope you want to show that you have a soul and that you have some warmth, because it's scary, as you know, reaching out to anybody in the legal space. And it can make or break your entire future, as we know. And so the idea that that if everybody's doing it, we shouldn't do it. That's like saying, I don't want them to be fed when they come to my website. I don't want them to have a great experience. I don't want to stand out. The same rule applies to ChatGPT. Sometimes people say things to me like, hey, Marcus, what happens if when AI takes over the world and they just go to ChatGPT or some other tool and they say, hey, who's the best attorney, for such and such type of litigation in Richmond, Virginia, and ChatGPT gives them the top 3 attorneys, and that's who they call. Like, okay, there's no search there, Marcus. What do we do then? First off, we know for a fact that those companies that have been doing They Ask You Answer do much better in terms of recommendations from AI, including ChatGPT. We also know that still, when it comes to referral, whether the referral is from a human or the referral is from AI, they're going to your website to vet you before they reach out to you the majority of the time. That's a fact. That's not going to change anytime soon.
There's another side of the equation, and that is just because has made a big presence in the last year and a half doesn't mean that people will use it for search most of the time. And when they do, it
Right.
doesn't mean that they will trust it. But the fact remains that when you get a professional referral, and most lawyers, when they get a referral, it's not a referral from a former client. It's usually a referral from another attorney. That attorney, being a good person, is not going to give just one referral. He is going to give you 2 or 3 names. And people are, I agree, fearful when it comes to hiring attorneys. And the reason for that fear is, number one, it's not even the fees. It's because we inherently understand that we do not know how to choose the right attorney. We just
Mm-hmm.
don't, just like we don't know how to choose the right doctor or the marketing company. These are complex decisions that are made very few times in our lifetimes. That's why we do not know how to choose right.
That's right. You were never
So,
educated in school how to hire an attorney.
nope. So I think that a lot of people will probably start going to ChatGPT and asking, how should I select the best attorney for my divorce or for
Mm-hmm.
my accident
Mm-hmm.
or for my something else, estate planning? I think that there is a higher probability of ChatGPT sharing criteria that you would use for picking the right attorney, but not actually feeding you the right attorneys. I think people
Mm-hmm.
are smarter than that. And what we see is that because we're a search marketing company, we examine data that comes from Google all the time. Overwhelming majority of search, as it's related to lawyers and legal services, is informational search. It's not commercial intent, meaning people are looking for questions that have to do with the type of legal challenge that they're facing before they start looking for lawyers. I think the ratio is easily 9 to 1. So for every 9 informational searches, there's only one commercial intent search.
Yeah. That's a very good point. We know what it's being used for is creation and ideation, not recommendation.
Hmm.
And I suspect it's gonna be a little bit before it gets to the point where people are aggressively going there, to your point, for commercial intent.
Yeah. And I think once again, people will just keep on doing informational search before they reach out to any lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And today, it's so easy to create content, even if you do not have budget for an in-house videographer. Okay,
It's called a phone.
you have this
Yeah.
$10 tripod, you're good to go.
Yeah, better than any camera they were using in Hollywood 20 years ago.
So true. It is so easy to create content, yet overwhelmed, and we have so many clients in the space who would rather us write content for them than them spending an hour, 2 hours a month in front of this and recording very, very simple answers to very, very simple questions that they get every single day.
That's incredibly asinine. That's like outsourcing your closing arguments to someone. What? What? Are you serious? Yeah, but that's how people think sometimes, man. They don't get
Mhm.
it. I mean, they don't get it. But I'm serious. If you're outsourcing your content, I want you to think, would I outsource my closing arguments? And if you would, well, go right ahead and outsource your content.
Yeah,
But if you want it to really represent you and have your style, your soul, well, then you need to be a part of the creation process.
yeah. I think this is one of the reasons why only 0.375% of all law firms pass the $10 million threshold, meaning generate at least $10 million in annual revenue. It's the unwillingness to do the uncommon, no matter how easy it is to do the uncommon. This is not like hard labor, sitting in front of a phone, not the videographer, but even the phone, and just
Mm-hmm.
answering those questions like, for God's sake, I do it, you do it. Like I crank out at least 20 videos a month, at least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
16 of them are created in one sit down,
Yeah,
once a
just
month.
you stack them up, man. I mean, you can. It's amazing how many videos you can produce in one day, and then you can have, somebody, post them, edit them, post them for you. All you got to do is show up and talk, which is what we're really good at anyway.
Yeah. So here we are, two guys who know how this works and how valuable it is, trying to convince the world or whoever is listening that this is really important. I think those people who may be sitting on the fence as the result of listening to this, I think that they would greatly benefit by reading your book. They ask you answer. I listened to the book. I did not read the book. I listened to the audiobook two, three, four times. Once at the very beginning when it just came out, and then a couple of times later when I was preparing to talk to my internal team and convince them of what needs to get done in order to improve on the results and do it faster. It is a lot faster to follow your formula than it is to sporadically do things
Mm-hmm.
because you really lay out the formula. The book is available on Amazon. The author is Marcus Sheridan. The title of the book is They Ask You Answer. Now, when I was prepping for this interview, I learned that you published another book that I've never heard of. I want you to talk about that one because I think the theme is similar, but the media is different.
Yeah, I published a book um, with a friend, Tyler Lassard, who's with Vidyard, and the title of the book is The Visual Sale, and it's just how to use video to build your brand, win more trust, and close more deals. And it is it's complementary certainly to They Ask You Answer, but your ability to use video today, man, it's just so crazy. And this is what I meant when I said you need to say, I'm going to be a media company. I'm going to treat my business like a media company. You treat it like a media company, you're going to go far. Clearly, you're doing that, Sasha. You're saying like popping off 16 videos in a day that I can distribute now over the course of a month. Like that's so efficient. That's so smart. That's treating your business like a media company. So yeah, the visual sale is out there and it's very video specific.
Yeah, check out that book. By the way, just a side note on that. About 2 years ago, I stopped writing emails if an email required more than 3 sentences. I just don't. I have in Google Chrome, I have a Vimeo extension. It's a little icon. I click on it and then I hit record. And then I record a video that has a lot more passion in it.
Mm-hmm.
And people get the video messages, the meaning so much better. I have a very dear friend of mine. He's a nice guy. Every time he fires off an email, he sounds like an asshole. He doesn't mean to.
Doesn't mean
If
to.
you,
I'm
but
telling
in
you, that's right. Some
video, he
people
comes
just
off very
sound
differently.
very terse with their text. It
Yep.
misses all of the nuances of what is the spoken word.
Mhm. But I do not want to think about those nuances. When I record a video, they just come through naturally.
Hmm.
But if I have to write it, it takes me 3 times the amount of time. Right now, I'm obsessing over grammar and other things, but in video, we don't. So I think that like if you're having a hard time with the concept of creating content, you can start with emails and then
Hmm.
advance forward to actually, again, I'm a huge proponent of this. I have a fancier camera sitting on top of my computer, and this is how I record all my videos, but you don't have to. Like if you don't want to spend $1,000, 500 bucks on DSLR camera, you can do it with this thing. You already
Hmm.
have it. It's just, I love the quote from Jim Rohn. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. And most people just find it easier not to do those things that are easier to do. That guy from Sleep Clinic and you back in 2000s, you had a harder journey. You actually had to write those things out. Today, you don't have to. You can create video and your marketing team will write it all out, thus killing more than one bird with one stone.
That's
There's
exactly
video,
right.
there's written content. You can repurpose those videos for your social media, for your website, slice it and dice it, create text content based on videos. It's amazing. Aside from the books, Marcus, if somebody wanted to connect with you and see the other work that you do, and you're a very dynamic speaker, I've watched some of your speeches online, never seen you speak live. I should. Where could they see more of your content?
Well, you can find me at marcussheridan.com. You can reach out personally, Marcus at marcussheridan.com. Also have an agency, Impact Plus, impactplus.com. And there's just a ton, unbelievable amount of they ask you answer information, free video courses on the things that we teach, what we've talked about today. So incredibly helpful. So I would certainly recommend that as well. So that's impactplus.com. But yeah, if you're listening to this right now, I hope you connect with me. I'm great on LinkedIn, and so if we're not connected on LinkedIn, go ahead and reach out on LinkedIn.
Marcus, it was amazing to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.